Welcome to the Open Mic Podcast Show with Mike Midgley.
Hey, and welcome to the Open Mic Podcast. On today's episode, I'm excited to be covering a highly relevant topic of live video marketing. Today's influencer guest is Trish Leto, the founder of the 5 Minute Lives Academy, and Trish is based out of Tampa in Florida. You know, when I look back over my sort of 25-year career, the world has changed so much. I started in business when the internet was really at its early concepts back in 1994. I remember getting the first email accounts, but the way things has moved on and how video, especially over the past few years, has changed is just been tremendous. But online video is not always just enough at the moment. There's strategies around it. Live streaming is becoming more and more popular. And what I'm trying to get to, guys, if you're listening, you're driving in the car, you're watching on the blog here, just write this down for me. Video is not enough. It's got to be a lot better. It's got to be targeted. It's got to be, a structure behind it. And it's like anything. There's a science, there's a formula. It just can't be done. Well, it can be done, but it can be done badly, if that makes sense. So you do need a defined video strategy to ensure the content, format, and distribution channels and meeting your audience's demands, guys, more than anything. It's not what you want to do. It's what your audience is going to engage with. And I remember back in 2017, even though it's only a couple of years ago, it feels like a millennia in digital. We invested in a Mevo camera. In fact, we're actually using it on the podcast today, and it's like a live stream Mevo. And everybody says, Mike, you must be crazy paying nearly $1,000 for a camera. What are you going to use that for? But I'm telling you what, we've used it on outside broadcasts, lives in Dublin, at HubSpot Inbound, over in Spain when we spoke with Infusionsoft, all these sort of events. And it's an essential part of our media kit. And I know we can get started with a video camera and an iPhone and things like that. And that's absolutely fine. I'm a big fan of that as well. But for me, when I travel, having the right kit to either do recorded stuff, produce stuff, raw stuff, or live stream stuff, to me is absolutely essential. And it's, as I say, I look at what Trish is delivering. It's exceptional. A quick background about Trish. We'll get into her background a little bit more in a moment or two. But Trish has spoken at VaynerMedia's Agent 2021 conference and at Facebook Live Video Profiting Experts at the Military Influencer Conference in 2018. And outside of speaking, Trish is a trainer. She's a mentor, consultant, and highly, highly experienced. That's probably done it as an underjustice in the real estate and mortgage industry. So we're going to be in for an amazing ride today on this podcast. And we're going to hopefully help you understand video strategy better, so you can start and move forward. So welcome to the show, Trish. It's absolutely amazing to have you on the show today.
Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? I'm like beyond honored to be on the show with you. And what an incredible, for people who are maybe for the first time experiencing you and your content, and to the audience that I'm going to be sharing this out with, what an incredible production you put together behind the scenes as we were preparing for this. I just really want to give you accolades and kudos for such a wonderfully put together show. You really, your standard operating procedures for making sure that this goes smoothly is incredible. So I really respect that. So thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, and thank you for the kind words. I can't take all the credit. My team behind me are the ones who are the skilled people. As I always say, I'm just the fool who sits up in the chair.
I love it.
And for you guys who follow my content, you know that I've got a bit of a humorous side to that as well. And but yeah, the team, it's not about myself. Yeah, sure, I face it up, and I come and get a great opportunity to interview awesome influencers like yourself, Trish. And my job is the easiest job in the world. I think I said on a couple of podcasts ago, the best part of my week is interviewing people on podcasts. I get, because I see it as a self-education as well. I learn from you as well. I get like a free coaching session of you and things like that as well, which is pretty cool. But ultimately, if you want to learn more about Trish and what she does in a bit more detail, you can find out a lot more at trishleto.com. And I'm just going to spell that for the first time. It's TRISHLETO.com. But if you're driving, don't worry about it. I'm going to put these in the show notes. All the links to Trish's site. You can get Trish on Facebook at facebook.com/Trish Leto, and obviously on LinkedIn using the same extensions as well. Also, if you want to check out what Trish is doing online, use the hashtag 5, that's the number 5, 5 Minute Lives. or press live with purpose. So there's a couple of hashtags there as well. And we're going to get into a lot of sort of deep dive sort of strategies around video. But before I get kicked off, I just really want to just talk a little bit more about Trish's background because, I'm really, really, really impressed with what I see. And I've got to be on my A game today. So I love the reference, Trish, where you use SOP. For those who, again, are not familiar with SOP, standard operating procedure, as we have. And Trish's background, ex-US Navy veteran, but now a live video marketing consultant. But please don't let that fool you. She's awesome at both. Her audience has crowned Trish the queen of the 5-minute lives, which is also trademarked as well. Simple. And, guys, if you're out there trying to change the world and you're out there trying to be immense, sometimes the simplest basic things work better. Your audience can consume them better. So don't try and, make it fancy. Just do the basics well and then build up from there. So Trish's strategy is a simple but highly effective strategy for providing content that matters to audiences with just 5 minutes of live video and repurposing it. And I think there's a big key around repurposing. A lot of people miss that. I'm sure Trish is going to pick up on that for increased brand recognition and revenue. Trish is also an expert speaker. I mentioned earlier, she spoke at the VaynerMedia. If you're not familiar with VaynerMedia, that's Gary Vee's organization, teaching strategies for social media while motivating and inspiring her audience to overcome self-doubts and press live with purpose. She recently quit a 9-to-5 job over 18 years in the mortgage industry and is now helping businesses increase revenue with her strategies full time. So, I do a lot of research on my guests when they come on the show. And, Trish, I have to say, I feel a little bit intimidated today as the host. So you've got to go easy with me for sure on this. I'm by no means a video expert. I do a lot of video myself and for the team here, but please go steady with it. But welcome again to the show, Trish. It's an absolute honor to have you on. And tell us a little bit more from starting in the US Navy as a veteran, all the way through to maybe how you got to going full time and what you're doing now, with the 5-minute lives and such. So just give us a sort of background for the audience so they can get a better feel of the experience and the journey.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me on, Mike. I really appreciate it. I feel like it's always an honor and a privilege. And just like you said, I love having chats like this with other entrepreneurs who get it, right? Like you get it, you understand it, you appreciate the story. And so a little bit of my background is, so I was in the military for 4 years. I was a helicopter mechanic in the Navy, and I got out in August of 2000. I was 22 years old, and I couldn't find a job. So a big part of what I do now, just a part of that backstory, a big part of what I do now is one of my missions is to make sure that I'm empowering my fellow brothers and sisters in arms and, other veterans who, whether they served 4 years or they served 20 years, that transition out of the military can be very, very scary. It causes a lot of self-doubt, depression, PTSD. There's all sorts of different things that jumbled into the emotional, physical, and spiritual, truly, transition from getting out of the military. So when I got out in August of 2000, I couldn't find a job for 7 months, and that kind of put like a little, I don't know, I guess like a light bulb into my mind. And I had always thought, okay, I'm going to make sure I always have some kind of a skill set that I can be not necessarily employable, but hireable, right? Because there's a huge difference between the two things. I don't necessarily need to be employed, but I need to know that I've got revenue coming in. I'm profiting somehow. So people have to hire me somehow. Yes. And so that was the beginning of my journey of always wanting to make sure that I had some things that to do. So, I was cleaning houses part-time. I finally got a job working for a financial advisor for a short time. And then I literally stumbled into the mortgage industry shortly thereafter. And I started out as a loan processor. I worked in the mortgage industry, worked my way up. I became a mortgage underwriter. I quickly, went from one company to another just for better opportunities. And then I worked for a company that was military based, and I ended up becoming the VA underwriter. So I became a VA loan pro for this company. Right. And I was training other people and all of this. But in between that, in October of 2007, when the stock market crashed
difficult
and the
time.
housing market crashed and plummeted, right? I got laid off. I was one of the last companies, big, huge company that got laid off. And when I got laid off, I could not find another job again for almost 7 full months. Nobody would hire me. I had to take the word mortgage completely out of my resume. And at that time, it was essentially 10 years of mortgage background under my belt. No one would hire me, right? So, and I hate to say this like this, but it's like dumb it down, right? Dumb it down. And now I tell people to dumb it down so that other people understand where, like, what their skill set is. Like, at the end of the day, I needed to make sure that people understood, okay, I can underwrite loans, but what does that mean? It means that I have outstanding comprehension skills. It means that I can identify issues and problems, and I can find holes in certain places, and I can put it all together like a puzzle, like puzzle pieces, and I can put it into a big picture and make people approved, right? So help people find a way to think outside the box. So that's always been a skill set that I've had.
And do you know what, Trish, there, a couple of things for our younger listeners. You've got to think about the pressure that, people like myself, Trish, and other financial professionals who are involved there. Trish, my background, I'll cover it many times, so I'll just keep it brief. The listeners probably get fed of this, but I was the CEO of a publicly traded wheeled asset finance company. So we used to lease cars. We used to lend money to lease cars, and we had our own underwriting team. We're venture capital backed. And we crashed big time in 2008. And I mean, all the banks were pulling the lines, and you've got to sometimes look deeper. And this is not all about the sad story, but the reason why I raise it, we try and give you inspiration on the show. And, if you're ever in a dark place, you can use the hashtag, the open mic. We'll get that answered for you. We'll connect with me personally on LinkedIn. We're not counselors by far, but we can maybe put you in touch with the right people or just share some experiences that, you're not alone. And at that particular time, 2007, as Trish is saying there, into 2008, and then it continued in 9, 10, 11, started to break a bit in 12, but didn't really get on its feet again until 13, 14. We're talking about 5 or 6 years, 7 years in a bit less, 5 or 6 years of sheer total doom and gloom. And if you were a finance person in that period, listen to what Trish is saying. She has to take that off her resume because people thought, I don't want you. Are you the reason why my house is getting repossessed? Are you the reason why my car's getting repossessed? Are you the reason why I can't afford to eat at the grocery store? This is all the stuff that we used to get, the abuse that we used to get. People don't realize that. And do you know what? If social media was as mature, well, I know social media is on its infancy. So before you come and troll me and say, hey, Mike, social's in its infancy. But where social media was in 2008 and 9, compared to where it is today. Remember, Facebook had only just really moved out of the college campus. So Twitter was just getting live, LinkedIn gone live. All the Snapchat, Instagram weren't even invented. YouTube was really, really early stages for developing. If we were in that community now as finance professionals, I would imagine there'd be hate, and trolling and abuse flying around because people generally saw us as the finest people. Yeah, you fat cats and this, that. It weren't all glory. There were a lot of guts with it as well. But, you've got to understand that. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you listen to Trish's story here, it doesn't amaze me. It used to amaze me. But the more entrepreneurs and influencers that I interview, Trish, we've all come from a backstory. We've all had that gripe. We've all had that downturn of luck, where we're literally on his backside, not knowing, where the next meal's coming from. And, so there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who sort of say, Mike, I find that, you reassure me and things like that. Great. You can do this. You can do this. You've got to get your purpose. You've got to get your fine and you move forward. And so I just wanted to jump in there, Trish, and cover that because I don't think a lot of people, unless they were either in the finance industry and around that time, or the younger audience don't understand how bad it was. And sure, it's never going to be World War II or anything like that, the horrible atrocities there. But ultimately, guys, it was an exceptionally dark place. And, a lot of people suffered hard. And whether it's ex-military people, struggling to transition into Civvy Street, or, you've got a career with not a tainted background, but what could be perceived tainted background. It's important to recognize that and then, understand your baseline and try and, rebuild and move forward, I think is what I'm saying. So apologies for that, Trish, but I just wanted to get that point across because it's often overlooked. The recession of 2008, 9, 10. But, it was life-changing, certainly for me, and it sounds like it was for you as well.
Oh my God. There's so many little pieces that you just said, and I'm gonna keep telling my story, but I do want to highlight a few things. It's not only that it was life changing, but I was young and I had no children, right? I was young and I had no children. I wasn't, I mean, I was still in my late 20s, early 30s when all of this happened. I think I was 30 years old when I got laid off from my job in October of '07. And I will honestly tell you, I felt like a huge loser. And I found myself at the bottom of a bottle of wine. And I mean, I was cleaning houses part time just for beer money because I felt like such a loser. Because I was like, I felt like I had just gotten like all the skill set completely revoked from me. Like, you know, so that's why when I tell people, with a college degree, nobody can ever take a college degree away from you. You earned it. You worked hard. You studied, whatever.
Yeah.
I never went to college. Well, I went to college, but I'm a college dropout. But my military time, nobody can ever take that away from me. I've got unique skill sets and leadership skills and training skills and things like that no one can ever take away from me. And I will tell you, Mike, to this day, I honestly believe that my veteran status alone has helped me get my foot in the door in a lot of opportunities that I otherwise would have had it slammed in my face.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
100%, right? So I am eternally grateful to the leadership that I received while I was in that helped guide me and allowed me to like finish out my 4 years, because there were times where I was ready to get out before the 4 year mark, right? And that was just 4 years. So anyway, I just want to say that because, and I'm older. I'm 41 years old now. I've got two little kids and I'm still doing this thing. And I feel like I put myself in comparison prison for so long with younger entrepreneurs who, millennials who are just like, oh, I've got a cell phone. If I just watch a few Gary Vee videos on YouTube, I can flip speakers and flip garage sale stuff and I can make money. And that's true. You absolutely can. But for people like us, we just don't necessarily think that way.
Correct.
Right? We've got two little kids flipping garage sale stuff. It's not necessarily what we want to do. We want to hone in our skills from our backgrounds, and we want to bring that to fruition and make that a reality and show other people that they can do it too, because that's a part of our story.
Yeah,
right?
and I'm a little bit older than you, Trish. I'm 49 next month, so I'm sort of half a generation older. And being embraced in digital. And, I fell into digital in the PLC. We actually had our own digital agency inside the PLC in 2005.
Right.
So, I've technically been in around digital 14 years. But that means I started, guys, at 35. And like you say, these kids are, in school doing creative stuff, and it comes a lot harder to us. And just one thing I would say is that, it ain't an easy ride. It doesn't matter if you're young or older. This stuff takes a lot of time, a lot of graft, a lot of effort. And, Trish speaking in the VaynerMedia show, at the age of 2021, it takes a lot of prep. It takes a lot of skill, a lot of tenacity, a lot of practice, and a lot of work that behind the scenes. Trish doesn't just rock up on the stage and do that. I did a keynote for Ryan Dice at Digital Marketer in London at their agency event a couple of weeks ago. And I worked with Marcus Murphy down there, and I wrapped up the day with a 45, 50-minute keynote. And you think, yeah, Mike rocks up on the stage and he does 45 minutes, 50 minutes. But let me tell you, number one, and I'm sure I'd love to get your view on this, Trish, Ryan Dyson Digital Marketer, phenomenal global digital team. You have to be on point. You can't turn up there with your B game. You got to turn up there with your A game, especially when you're keynoting out on the last one, and probably even increase pressure for Trish doing it for Vayner. But the days, the weeks, the month, not the months, but the days and the weeks before that, prepping, making sure it's right, understanding. Not just the travel time, the time out. Do we get paid for it? No, we don't. But it's the kudos, it's the exposure that we get, credibility, and all that type of stuff. And the work that goes in, it probably cost me 10 days of my time. Now, me and Trish were laughing about it off air. Trish's military background, of course. I don't have one, but I feel like I do because I'm really process driven and really regimented. I have to get that right. I have to turn up there on my A game, because if I didn't, I'm not just letting myself down. I'm letting, the people who's entrusted me to go and walk that stage for 45 minutes and deliver value. So it takes a bucket load of hard work, guys. Don't underestimate that. And like you say, if you think you can just rock up with your smartphone and become a global leader, well, you want to get a reality check. It takes work. And this is what we're going to be speaking about with Trish. And she's going to give you some strategy around that. But please continue, Trish. Tell us a little bit more about the Vayner event and things like that.
For sure. So it does take a lot of hard work, and that hard work, consistency, persistency, right? So when Ryan Dice probably asked you to be a keynote, it's because their team went and they checked you out. They did their research. They made sure that you were actually living up to this hype and that you were gonna serve that audience. Equally so with Vayner. Their Vayner Media is one of the biggest media companies in the entire globe, right? So when we applied for Agent 2021. We applied. I actually had a gal who was getting me speaking gigs at the time. I'd hired her, and she applied me for it. And she reached out to me and said, "Hey, is it okay that I applied you for this?" And I like literally almost fell on the ground because Gary Vee has been my number one mentor since I started this whole journey, right? So when I was looking for work and another part of my story, but he's been my number one mentor. So we applied, and then literally like a few minutes later, we got an email back from them and said, we'd like to have her on the phone call tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m.
Get in.
And so they had a day to go check me out. And we get on the phone, and I'm on the phone talking to Kim Garcia, who is the senior vice president for VaynerMedia and the Vayner Experience.
Yeah.
So she's like Gary Vee's right-hand woman, right?
Yeah.
And we're on the phone not even 10 minutes later. And I guess I was totally myself, Mike, my hand was shaking, like shaking.
I know.
And when they said, we'd like to invite you to be on the mortgage panel for Agent 2021, I started to cry because it was an overwhelming experience, an overwhelming emotion, because to me, that was my gauge. I went, oh my God, this is it. Gary Vee's team is inviting me to speak at a freaking VaynerMedia event. Like, are you kidding me right now? And I literally asked her, I said, am I being punked? Like, this is for real, right? And because I was literally overcoming self-doubt and in comparison to so many other people. And am I good enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? I still to this day do this to myself, right? And I wake up and I do this mantra now because of it. But I got there, I got on the stage, and I spoke with like four other gentlemen who were unbelievable. And I brought my A game. But Mike, I spoke about something that I've spoken about over and over again. And it got me huge exposure, and I connected and networked with other people.
Yeah.
So if nothing else, I'm going to tell you, if you start using 5-minute lives, if you start doing Facebook Live more consistently, it does build up your brand. It does build up your stature as an industry expert, a go-to expert, right? So because of all of this, now I'm a content contributor for Industry Syndicate, which is a huge platform for the real estate and mortgage industry, right? So it's bringing together really high-level influencers and people who work extremely hard on all these social media platforms, podcasting, Facebook Lives, LinkedIn, Instagram, everything. And we're coming to the forefront, and we're making sure that we're educating the mortgage and real estate professionals so that they understand we're taking off the overwhelm and making them go, yes, I can. Yes, I can do this. It is okay. I just got to start at step 1 and then step 2. And we're telling them how to do that. So I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of that piece because I've worked very hard for that. So what got me into all of this is I was working for a company. I had 2 kids at the time. I had 2 kids in 2 years, and my daughter was about 2 years old. My son was like 6 or 8 months old. And I'm in my kitchen. I was working for an MLM as a side hustle, right?
So just to be clear, guys. So just to be clear, guys. A little bit of US to UK translation here. If we're not familiar with that, that's multi-level marketing. So you may have had some experience of that with Amway or things like or other things like that. So, but yeah, absolutely, Trish. I just wanted to get that covered, sort of thing.
Yeah. So I was doing multi-level marketing with this one company. It was a health and fitness company, and I was selling the shakes. I was the girl who was doing the selfies and like showing Flex Friday and selling the bloody shakes, right? And it was annoying. And I know it was like, I was just product vomiting because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, man, I was in desperation mode, right? And you understand that. And most people understand that. I've got 2 beautiful children. I've got a full-time job. My husband hates his job. My job is just barely paying the bills, and I've got 2 kids in daycare, and I'm paying $2,200 a month to have my children in daycare. Are you kidding me right now? Like, I was putting my son's daycare on a credit card, and I couldn't even do that. I wasn't supposed to be doing that. So I had my worst month ever. I was in my kitchen chopping vegetables one night, and I had all these text messages come in on my Facebook Messenger, basically telling me I was on track to make $1,200 that month on the MLM.
Yeah.
And it turned into all these people at the same time saying me, thank you, but no thank you. I can't afford it. My husband says no, my wife says no, whatever. Yeah. And I ended up making a little over $300 that month. But I was completely and totally crushed. And I walked out of my kitchen and I looked at my husband. I was just pouring tears.
Yeah.
And I looked at my husband and he looked at me and he said, maybe you're just not good at this. Okay. And what he meant to say was, maybe you're just not good at this particular thing. Maybe you should try something different. But what I heard, unfortunately, was, you suck. Why are you even trying?
You picked out the bold letters, didn't you?
Oh my God. I was like, are you kidding me right now? And I stopped crying immediately, and I had rage. I was just totally enraged. Yeah. I was angry. I was disappointed. I felt like a loser. I felt like a failure. And I look at my 2 beautiful children and I'm like, well, I can cry about this, or I can put on my big girl underoos and I can walk into my office tonight and I can open up my laptop and I can start learning from the people who are making millions and millions of dollars doing this very same thing.
Yeah.
And that was the choice. Every day we have a choice, right? We can cry about it. We can feel sorry for ourselves, or we can do something about it.
Yeah. Do you know what, Trish? That's an amazing sort of backstory. And, there's so many things that I resonate with there. And, you were chopping vegetables. I fell out of the tree and nearly killed myself. But they're all where you feel at the lowest point. I don't ask. Yes, I was trying to chop it.
Similar, Mike.
Yeah. But there's so many things. Do you know what? The thing that comes out of here is that one of the there's 2 words that I use in entrepreneurship. And I think one of the most powerful words, and they're probably not, you could probably, and I won't play the guess the mic's inspirational words game. And apologies if some of you guys have heard this content either on what I speak about, or I've done it with some of the video stuff that I do in the community, but there's 2 words. One is relief and the other one is choose. And the reason why to me that they're so powerful, guys, is that what is the best emotion that you have? People say happy or, this and that. But to me, it's relief. It's when that fear of somebody finding out, or you finally said, hey, yeah, my car did get repossessed. In 2012, I lost an absolute ton of money when we had to put a business in administration. And the worst thing, Trish, right? I'd be totally honest with you. The worst thing, was it losing the business? That was a £12 million business, about an $18 million business that we had. We lost in admin at the end of the financial crisis. We just couldn't raise a Series B to get it out of the mire. We just couldn't get it over the line. Probably because we cost about £500,000 myself, so about $700,000 it cost me personally. But do you know what the biggest kick in the old pants were? When they came to my house and repossessed my Merc off the drive. Now, you might all be sitting there saying, hey, I couldn't even eat in that period. Yeah, and I'm with you. I've been there as well. I sat on deck chairs in my first house when I first got a flat, for 6 months. I didn't have any furniture. So I've all got the sob story to a degree. But the point I'm saying is and I knew it was happening. They didn't come and knock the door. It was pre-announced. We will be turning up at that day. Make sure the car's available. The books are in the car. The keys are available. And I gave them the key to my Merc, and they drove it off. And and you might think, poor little rich boy. No, it wasn't. I was absolutely on my backside there. Massive financial loss. Lost a big 6-figure income. Yep. My credibility was down in the pan. I stood there at the end of the drive and I watched the car put the indicator on and turn left. And that's the last time I saw that car. And that was my lowest point. So it weren't chopping vegetables or whatever, but I'm thinking, I've got no car. I got no job. I got no money. I got money, but I've lost a hell of a lot of money. It'd be a heavily wipeout. And you think, how worse could this get? How worse could this get? And, the key thing is, so the relief when everybody knew, Mike's Mercs has gone, everything, I could then deal with it. It was clear the air. I didn't have to, not lie, but I didn't have to pretend anymore. So that's why I use the word relief as a major thing. The second one is choose, and quickly on choose. Trish mentioned there, you either sit there and moan about it, or you get off your backside and go and choose to do something. And that doesn't matter if you're doing well or not, it's the decisions you make. I'm a member of the 168 Club. And hey, that's not an exclusive club. Let me tell you how many people are in the 168 Club. 7 billion people are in the 168 Club. And the reason why, because it's 168 hours in the week, guys. That's how many hours is in the week. You choose what you're going to do about it. You sit on the sofa, watching TV, telling you haven't got time to study, cut the TV out, get up early, do whatever you got to do. You got to put the yards in. You've got to walk the hard yards. And, today you recover, what we're talking about now, 7 years later, totally different industry, totally different business, totally different wealth status, totally different everything. But it's about being able to recover. And I have never met a true entrepreneur who's not been down on the luck and then recovered, because that's the stories that make you. There's a great saying. I actually used it in the keynote a couple of weeks ago at the conference I just mentioned, Trish, that Jim Rohn says. And he said, set yourself a goal to become a millionaire. And not for the money. That becomes automatic. It's for what it makes of you to achieve that goal.
Oh my God. Amen.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And that is exactly what I'm saying. And,
oh my God. Amen.
Perfect. So that struck a chord. But,
Oh my God. If that ain't the truth, I mean, oh my God almighty. There's just, as you're telling your story about having your car taken away, I remember the same thing. It happened to me in 2008. After I got laid off in 2007, I was making like almost 90 grand a year, and I had a great cushy job, just went to the office, did my thing, and I got laid off. And I remember sitting in my townhouse. My husband had moved, we were dating at the time, but he'd moved in with me. And I remember telling him, listen, I don't have a penny to my name right now. Like, I'm barely making ends meet. I just got a job making $14 an hour at a law firm at the time as an administrative assistant. Thank God, right? They took me in, and I learned a lot working there. Talk about like multi-million-dollar law firm with some of the most intelligent attorneys I've ever met in my life. And but I remember being in my townhouse and going, well, I'm gonna lose this house, and they're gonna be coming to get my car any day now. Just letting you know, I'm a total loser. We were eating ramen noodles, and we were totally okay with that because we could afford it.
Yeah. It's the standard equipment, isn't it, of the down and out ramen noodles. It's like, that's the one, and you've got it.
Hamburger Helper and ramen noodles were like, those were like the, our staples in our house.
You've got it.
We were super healthy. Oh my God, it was horrible. But absolutely. I remember them coming to take my car, and I thought to myself, this is the ultimate. This is it. I'm never going to be this much of a loser again.
But you know what? On a more positive, as we move out of that, I'm also a big believer, Trish, and I'm sure you'll second this. You never lose. You either win or you learn. And
that's it.
Yeah,
yes.
and to come back, that's the secret segue, because I often get asked, Mike, you lost it all, you came back and did whatever, and what was the secret? And hard work, study, continuous, putting the yards, all that aside. But if you sit there thinking, I've just lost. Yeah, you do for a period of time, a day, 2 days, a week, whatever it might be. There's a great podcast I did with a guy called Henry Kaminsky Jr. and listen to the first part of that where he talks about how he lost everything. And he sat on the bed with his wife after he'd lost everything and been trolled online and really literally assassinated. And he sat there and he's thinking, like, my head's going to explode. And he thought his wife would kick up with him and maybe leave him, or maybe his girlfriend at the time, I forget. Sorry, Henry, if you listen on that one. I couldn't remember if he was or wasn't married at that point. But his wife just said, do you know what? We've got two choices. We can sit here and feel sorry for her about herself. Or Henry then goes on to say, she says, let's go to work. And do you know what? I say that now, and apologies, Henry, I keep pinching that statement that you and your wife coined there, let's go to work. And it's about getting on with it. Feel sorry for yourself for a period of time. Scratch it out. Go and stick your head under the cover for a week or a day or whatever. But do that for a short period of time. Wash it out of your system. Never look back. You get that grit between your teeth and you go and make that happen. And now, one of my strap lines, you'll hear me say it on all my videos, is go to the hustle, go make it happen. And it's the go make it happen bit more than the go and hustle, because we can hustle like crazy, but it's going and make it happen and implementing and making it work and moving forward that really gets you where you need to go. So yeah, similar boats, ramen noodles aside. Yeah.
Well, 100%. So what brought me to today is in that moment, I get up, I walk into my computer into my office that night, get my kids to bed, and I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. Right. And so I went to the most high level people that I could find. Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, Amy Porterfield, Lewis Howes, Russell Brunson, all of them, right? And I started to learn from them. I went onto YouTube and I started watching their webinars. I mean, I probably watched like 50 webinars in like a week. I don't know. It was ridiculous, right? But there was a consistency, and I like to think I suck at school, but when it's like immediate gratification, I am an outstanding student. I take notes, and I'm very perceptive of the most important things to take away. And the most important thing that I took away from each and every webinar was that they were telling their story first.
Yes.
So I wasn't really telling my story first. When I was doing MLM, I was just like, oh, here's the shake, you should buy it now.
Buy my stuff.
But I wasn't telling a story, and people need to hear that piece. Like, so I was like, okay, Roger that. I need to tell my story more. And so I was, doing this, and I was telling my story, and I was like writing these posts, and it was great, and I was getting some traction, but I was also in learning mode. I was in learning mode, not implementation mode. So then I started noticing that there were people that were on Facebook and doing some Facebook Lives as Facebook Live came about, and they were showing that they were implementing what Grant Cardone and Russell Brunson and Gary Vee were teaching. So I reached out to them and I said, hey, listen, I've got this Facebook Live thing on my phone. I'm scared out of my mind to go live by myself. What do you say I interview you on a Facebook Live and I introduce you to my audience, and maybe I can, ask you some questions, pick your brain a little bit and learn from you. And do you have an affiliate program? I'd love to use your affiliate link to bring in some people into your program. And that launched what is now called the Expert Connection on Facebook Live. I have a Facebook Live show called the Expert Connection with Trish Leto, because I was reaching out to all of these industry experts, and I had one of my mentors reach out to me and go, Trish, you're a journalist. And I went, oh my God, I never even thought of it that way. He's like, you're phenomenal at this. You're asking all the right questions. You're engaging with the audience. And you know what, Mike? It was so much fun. It was fun. And I loved it. And so I was doing this thing, but at the same time, I would notice that we would go live and I'd be live for like an hour. And then I'd see people go Facebook Live, and myself, I'd go Facebook Live and I'm live for like all this time. There was no structure, there was no real great content, and there was no call to action. So I sat down one night and I said, okay, people are losing their audience like 10, 15 minutes into their video. There's no structure, there's no content, the content sucks, nobody cares, and there's no call to action. What's the point of this? So I sat down with a sticky notepad just like this, and I wrote down, okay, we're going to do this in 5 minutes. I'm going to start doing like tech tips in like 5 minutes, tech tips with Trish. So I sat down, like, okay, I can do it in 5 minutes, 30-second intro covering my who, what, why, and how, 2 to 3 minutes on the topic, 1 minute Q&A and interacting with my audience, and a 30-second close. I can do this. So I wrote it down and I did it. And then I started doing it. And I was like, hey guys, I'm doing this thing and I'm calling it 5-minute lives with Trish, tech tips with Trish and 5-minute lives. And people were like, holy Jesus, this is amazing. Like, this is incredible. Like, Trish, this is awesome. You're only live for 5 minutes. And then I would cut out. And they're like, whoa, wait, what just happened? Trish just went live for 5 minutes and that was it? And I'm like, yeah. And it's in small consumable chunks of content.
Perfect.
So more people started doing it, and I turned it into a blueprint, and I've got it, like, I printed it out, and I'm just going to say, Mike, it turned into a thing. And then we got it trademarked, and I hired a business coach in early November. And I'm just going to cut to this. I hired my business coach in early November after he was a keynote speaker at an event that I also spoke at. My presentation was how to monetize live video content. And within that presentation, I covered the 5-minute lives. I get off the stage, I walk to the back of the room, and his name is Chad Thibodeau. And Chad came up to me and he goes, can I just tell you something? I go, what? He goes, that was a phenomenal presentation. And I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. He goes, but can I coach you just a little bit? Absolutely. And he says, your entire presentation is 5-minute lives. And I said, no, I talked about that though. And he's like, no, your entire presentation is 5-minute lives. And I'm going to teach you how to break that down into like a 7-step system.
Brilliant.
And so that's how all of this came about. So he did his presentation. He made an offer. We hired him on the spot. In December, I paid off over $15,000 in debt. I launched a course beta, and the week of Christmas, I sold over $3,000 of that course.
Amazing.
And then in the end of February, I gave my 2 weeks notice to my 9 to 5 job. And then I proceeded to close about $100,000 worth of business.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's amazing.
So I've been self-employed for 3 months now, and don't get me wrong, Mike, I failed forward a lot. There's a lot of bits and pieces of that story that I haven't even told you
Oh,
guys.
of course, yeah.
But I made a lot of bad decisions, but I made the right decisions as well. And those right decisions have led me to right here and right now.
No, and congratulations. That's an amazing. But you know what? The main thing is it's that definite purpose. I'm going to go out and do this. I'm going to make the commitment. I'm going to make the thing, and you're going to go out there. I did a session with Heather Parody last week, and we were talking about how much content and things people are fearful of releasing out into the world because don't look at me, or will people laugh, or whatever, and you can help people change the world. It doesn't matter if you're in the plumbing business, the military, or you're a lawyer or anything in between. You can go and change the world. You can help people. And, when I look at the podcasts, it's a lot of time, effort, and commitment that we put into them. But it's a public service. I get the chance to speak to people from all over the world. I get educated as part of doing it, and it's just an amazing thing. And I can put that out. And if you pick one thing out of this podcast, just drop us a message using the hashtag #BeOpenMic. Let Trish know using the hashtag 5 Minute Lives or Press Live with Purpose using those hashtags. And again, we'll put those in the show notes along with Trish's contact details. Although if anybody just wants a quick shout out, you can get her at trishleto.com. There's also an amazing course that you can sort of take on there. Trish mentioned it earlier. 5 minutes lives in 7 days delivery. It's next to nothing. It's less than what you'll end up paying over a month in probably sandwiches and coffee. It's less than $100 to get in there, and go and learn this from the people who've been there, done it, and mastered it. You don't get to speak for Vayner. You don't go through that journey without being credible is what we're saying. So you can, of course you can go and watch this stuff free on YouTube, allegedly. How good is it? How consistent is it? Go to the people who are doing this. I often, speak with people who said, hey, Mike, we hired you because you do this stuff. You're not talking about it. You're actually out there doing it. Whether that's videos, community management, social media, public speaking, NXT coaching, agency stuff. We're actually doing this stuff, and we're learning every day from different demographics and marketplaces. So go and do that. Check out Trish's course. Head over to trishleto.com. And again, we'll put a link to that page there as well, where you can sort of, get started if, that's where you're ready to go. So a great transition, and thanks for sharing that journey, Trish. There's so much stuff we have in common there, and from the Eddie Brock. I don't know if you guys have seen the Venom thing that where the alien gets inside of him, and he decides to stay on the planet, and he actually goes, I'm going to stay around. He goes, on my planet, I'm a loser like you are here on the UK. And there's a great line in Venom, if you ever see it there. From losers to heroes, or from learners to heroes, I think is the better appropriation. So, go and cry about it. Go and get it out of your system if you are in that place. If you're on the open rise, start listening to professionals like Trish. Go and find, whether it's Grant Cardone, whether it's Dennis Yu, or it's Leonard Kerr. It doesn't really matter. Gary Vee, Henry, Purdeep. Doesn't matter. These guys know what they're doing. If it's sales you're after, somebody like Landon Porter can help you with that. The sales gorilla, just amazing, amazing, amazing people who are going to, get you started and fast. So Trish, tell me, we've mentioned, I don't know how many times, the 5 minute lives. Now, it's pretty straightforward, 5 minutes live, I get that, but there is always a strategy. Tell us a little bit more about 5 minute lives and why they're so important in today's video content strategy.
So, first of all, real quick, I just want to say something. You mentioned Landon Porter, the sales gorilla. He was my very first mentor in this entire space. And he was actually the one that said, Trish, you're a journalist. Keep doing this thing. So shout out to Landon. I absolutely adore him. I was one of his moderators and one of the original gangsters in his Facebook group.
The OG.
Jungle. Oh man, I absolutely appreciate him.
I interviewed Landon last week. He's an amazing guy.
He's amazing. He's one of my favorite people.
Check out the podcast.
John and Mark. Oh my God, I just love them so much.
Yeah, so that podcast I think is going out on the 8th or 15th of July, something like that. But it's on the open mic. You heard it here first time. So,
yeah, no, 100%. 100%. So, okay, I'm going to dive into this as much as quickly as I can. Okay. So 5-minute lives, the reason why I created it again is because, so we all know that when we're on Facebook, people only want to pay attention to things that matter to them,
Yep.
right? So before you go Facebook Live or do any of this, if you're somebody who's kind of hung up on what do I talk about, how do I get good content out there, I want you to visit a website called answerthepublic.com.
Brilliant.
It's 100% for free. You can ask up to 3 questions per day, 100% for free. And just go in there and you want to type a word or a few words into the search engine, and then it will bring up an entire schematic for you telling you exactly the types of questions that people are asking about that exact thing every single day on the internet right now. Like, they want the answers. They're looking it up on Google. They're looking it up on YouTube. They're looking it up on Yahoo and Bing. So use this for free. You can download a CSV file for free. Now you have an Excel spreadsheet. Go through there, highlight the things that you know you can speak eloquently about, and break it down into 5-minute chunks, Monday through Friday. Maybe it's a 5-step process, right? But the reason why you want to do it this way is because Mark Zuckerberg just did F8. His big keynote, big part of his big keynote was, if you're going to do Facebook Lives, they want you to make it into a show. And a show equals consumable content that matters to your audience. You're coming forward and you're delivering value that matters, and you're doing it for free just so that people will want to watch the replay, come back for more. Every time you go Facebook Live, it should matter to your audience, right? So make sure you're getting content that matters to your audience. If you can turn it into a 5-step process, even better. So that way you're making sure that people are engaging with you and they're consistently coming back for more and more and more. And it positions you as the go-to expert within your industry, right? Perfect. Super easy, right? Step 1, get good content. Step 2, press live with purpose. What does that mean? That means press live with the purpose and intent of knowing you're not only serving your community on Facebook Live, but you're going to download that video and you're going to repurpose it onto other platforms, which is why 5-minute lives comes into play. If you follow the structure of 5 minutes, but you go over 5 minutes and stay under 10, you can immediately take that video and put it onto IGTV or LinkedIn, which maximum video capacity timestamp is at 10 minutes, right? But that's 2 huge platforms where people are consuming your content. And LinkedIn is where business goes down, like 100%. That's where the majority of my business comes from. That's how I met Mike, right? So just remember, LinkedIn is for business. So be prepared to bring the value, the good content, right? When you're done with that piece of it, make sure that you share the link out. And if you're doing it on your Facebook business page, make sure you've got your pixel installed. If you share that video out, now you're getting more video views. You're building the know, like, and trust with more people who are going to help you build up a custom audience and a lookalike audience, so that when you start driving traffic to that, then it makes sense to you and it's less cost per conversion, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and then the other piece to it is that video is now out there all over the world. You can take that video and also upload it onto anchor.fm for free. If you're just getting started, people are going to watch your video, but then there's a huge demographic of people who are going to listen to the audio version. So make sure, I don't care if it's something that's visual, upload the video onto anchor.fm. It's 100% for free. And then that will automatically go out to 9 other platforms, including iTunes and Google Play, right? So it's a no-brainer. Just completely repurpose your content right away. And then you can use it and you can put it into course material. If you get a lot of people who engage with that, if you're going on answerthepublic.com and you're getting that information, you know it matters to your audience. If that's getting a lot of engagement, people are sharing it out and they're telling you, wow, this is awesome content, put it into a course, put it into a module on a membership site, right? Transcribe it for free on a couple of different websites for free. You could transcribe it on temi.com. You could transcribe it on rev.com. Turn it into a book. Go on Amazon and sell it as a book for 99 cents. Use Facebook Live to promote that book. Now you're selling that book. You're getting your content in front of more and more people. And you're doing it in just 5 minutes a day.
Yeah. And, you know, like you say, I love the strategy where you say drip it over 5 days as well and drip it into that series. But, Answer the Public, it was great. I remember when the beta come out, and it's got like spider graphs on there. There's data charts. There's and it's like what, how to's, what's, who's. It's all those type of questions. We've all been on YouTube, or we've all been onto Google. How to, stop my car being repossessed, or how to whatever it would be. How to build a summer house or whatever it might be. We search that stuff, and they're collecting. It's a live algorithm on there. Just for the sake of the audience as well, there is a paid version of Answer the Public as well. They've now got a pro version, but as Tricia said, you can get started with a limited number of searches per day and find out what it is. You don't have to sit there, saying, where do I get started? Ryan Levesque, he's got a great saying that, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to get going. So just get going, get started, and go out there and, and change the world. So they're amazing tips. And thank you so much for that, Trish. My notepad was filling up like mad here, all the tips that I'm taking out of it to make sure that we're doing some of that stuff as well with our stuff.
I do want to mention very briefly is, people ask me often what separates me from other people who are teaching live video content. Yeah. I really want to address that for a second. I give easy, actionable tips. I don't talk about special lighting. The only microphone you really need is this headset that comes with your iPhone. I use my iPhone for just about every single live that I do. Yeah. Okay. If you do it via portrait and you get that grayscale on either side, you can get rid of that easily using InShot, INSHOT, for free. That's an app, and you can reposition the canvas so that it goes to the Apple 5.5 or 5.8. I think it's millimeter frame. So that'll get rid of that gray scale, that fuzziness on either side, right? If you do it landscape or horizontal, though, that's an easier video to do side by side if you're interviewing someone. Correct. And it looks a lot more visually appealing when you upload it to YouTube as a repurposed content video as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give those hacks real quick.
No, that's great. And I really, really, really appreciate it. And there are so many apps out there. If you're unsure about it, go and ask the community. Go and ask your peers. Join a group if you're not in a mastermind group or some type of development group or whatever it would be. Join. But don't just contribute as well. When you see somebody struggling, imagine that when you're in that place. If that person's struggling, I've got the answer. Get in there, share the knowledge. Don't dictate. So hey, this is my experience around it. This is how I used it. Sort of give guidance more than dictation. But ultimately, you can help people. So that's fantastic, Trish. Talk to me about content location. That connecting and networking. How to understand to get this right. And I know we've dipped in and out of that a little bit, but that content location. You've talked about different channels and repurposing and things like that. But just talk to me a little bit more about that, because I think that's really, really valuable for people to understand.
Yeah, 100%. I actually have a method that I've turned into an acronym, and it's called Pigly, Piggly. And what that does, it literally tells people exactly how to take all that content from Answer the Public that they just told you what to talk about, and then take about 20 minutes, one time a month, and open up 6 tabs on your computer and open up Pinterest, Instagram, Google, one Facebook group where your ideal client exists, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Yeah. And what that's going to do is it's going to show you whether or not that content is being discussed on those platforms and how much it's being discussed on those platforms. Yeah. If you find that Pinterest has more information than Google does, then hang out more on Pinterest. Upload your stuff onto Pinterest. Have your backlinks to your YouTube channel on Pinterest. That brings people into maybe a landing page or a call to action to schedule a call with you, whatever the case may be. Yeah. Similarly with LinkedIn, if you plug a few keywords into LinkedIn, you can go directly to the content tab. And if you do that, you can find that there's just hundreds, if not thousands of conversation threads happening in LinkedIn directly relevant to your industry, your niche, your topic. And now you can start having conversations with people right there. And let's say you do a handful of Facebook Lives, okay? If you do a handful of Facebook Lives for 5 minutes or maybe even 20 minutes, who cares? You could break them all up, okay? Yep. You can go on to temi.com or rev.com or one of these other websites and transcribe it for free. Go in, edit it, make it look nice and clean and crisp, and you can turn that into a huge article that you can put on a website page, right? Amazing. So then if you're having those conversations with people on LinkedIn or on Pinterest or in a Facebook group, all you have to do is say, hey, you can check out an article that I wrote about this very thing. Yep. And now they're going to go to your article, and that article is going to be their one-stop shop for every single thing that they need to know about what you're talking about.
Whatever topic or subject is,
Right? And that's going to drive a buttload of traffic to your website organically, right? Because all you're doing is saying, oh yeah, no, I wrote an entire article covering this whole thing, right?
Yeah. So you're gonna get hits on there.
Oh my God. So my systems guy is a guy by the name of Dan Kurtz. He's my business partner. He's phenomenal at this. And he was one that told me to do all of this. And I'm like,
yeah,
that makes total sense. I've got hundreds, if not thousands of hours of content out there, right? Like,
let's convert it.
How many years I've been doing this. So I'm going through right now and I'm cleaning it all up, and we're going to make one whole page of my website covering everything.
Just one thing there as well. The thing that Trish mentioned, the Tammy.com and the Rev.com, their transcription caption services. Here's a little pro tip. We use Rev, and we transcribe all my videos and create them and curate them into blogs and things like that. And we put them in the community. But one thing I ended up doing, I ended up transcribing them, I ended up buying captions. But here's a little pro tip, and I hope Rev aren't listening. But if you order captions off Rev instead of transcription, it'll come. You can still download it in a text file, and then you can paste it into a Word document and then get your transcribed free. So you don't have to pay $1 a minute for captions and $1 a minute for transcribed. Do it as captions, download it. It will come as a TXT file, so it looks a bit gobbled to start with. You copy it, you paste it, and there's a little bit of formatting you got to do. But, if you're doing a 5 minute, that's $5 saved. If you're doing like a podcast like this, where we might be doing 40, 50 minutes, that's $50 saved. So, you might think, well, that's not a lot of money. But, you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. If we're doing 5, 6, 7 podcasts a month and they're all $40, $50 a piece, plus hosting, plus time, you can start to see just the financial investment. So being a little bit frugal like that. And some of those tips and those systems are awesome, Trish, and I fully endorse them. So thanks for sharing them. And we'll get those put in the show notes as well.
No, you're absolutely right. One final tip on this, and then we can do whatever, we can talk about whatever else you want to talk about, Mike. I just want to make sure I touch on this because this is one of the coolest hacks I've found for myself with my business.
Yeah.
If I go onto YouTube and I look up a how-to video, maybe it's something technical for my phone, or maybe it's something that I'm like, hey, how to do this thing. I might find a few videos, but I might not be able to understand the person who's got the video, right? So instead of worrying about transcribing it or having it, like trying to figure out what the person's saying, I will follow along the video and go, okay, I think I can kind of pick up, maybe the person's got a thick accent or something. I'll kind of pick up what they're doing and go, cool. And then I'll figure it out. I'll do it myself, and I will record myself doing it, or I'll go Facebook Live and go, hey, I just found a couple of videos on YouTube, but I couldn't quite understand what the person was saying. So I'm going to walk you through.
Here's my take on it.
And then I plug it onto YouTube, and now I get more people coming to me because they can hear me clearly.
Absolutely love it. That's amazing.
Why not?
No, absolutely. And, you mentioned Gary Vee earlier. I think, everybody in the world's sort of aware you either like him, hate him, or somewhere in between. It doesn't really matter. But he talks also about documenting, not creating. If you look, he's in the back of a cab, he's on a plane, he's just documenting. It's like, okay, I forget what the team size is now. Jay will probably correct me, but it's probably 18 or 20 people Gary's got in his team. But yeah, he's at that level, but he didn't start at that level. I did a podcast with Leonard Kim, the social influencer out of LA. Leonard is an absolute awesome guy, TEDx speaker, quoted in Mashable, Inc., Forbes, etc., etc. Go check him out at Mr. Leonard Kim on Twitter. Give him a follow and a like. He's awesome. But what Leonard talked about strategy is, you can't just be Gary Vee or, Leonard from that degree is 630,000 followers on Twitter alone. And his business partner's a guy called Ryan Foland. He's an amazing guy. Go and check those out as well. They've just got a book coming out in October called Ditch the Act, which is an amazing sort of sneak preview that I've seen of it so far. But the point I'm getting to is you just can't be at that level overnight. You've got to get so far. And then once you've got a circle of influence, you go again to the second level, you go again to the third level, and then you eventually get to whatever level that, you either aspire to get to or you achieve. And that's true for me. I mean, I started doing a lot of guest content. Just last month, one of my blog guest articles got published in Digital Donuts here in the UK, which is a big thing. Gets distributed all over. You just don't go straight to Forbes or HuffPost and get that on. You have to start and get 10 of those done, and then maybe you go up to the second tier. Maybe that's some higher level industry. Then you get invited to go and speak at DM events or Vayner events. And you can't just turn this on unless you've got an amazing cure that for some sort of horrible disease, or you can make people live forever. You've got to work on this, so you've got to do that. But don't be impatient. But my advice to that is, what I love about Trish's advice is break it down into steps, consumable, relevant content, repurpose the heck out of it, and then you're going to start a build. But be patient. Entrepreneurship is a long game. You can get some quick wins, of course, but it is a long game. You ain't gonna get an iPhone or a Samsung and be in the back of a cab rivaling Gary Vee. That's not going to happen. So I think most people are, have got enough common sense to think that. But
I'm trying.
We are trying. We're all trying. And there's another great saying that I use, and this is and I don't use it with the Gary Vee example, Trish, but I use it in a similar scenario. And that is, if you go back to the 80s and watch an interview that one of the networks did with Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, of course. And he says and the interviewer says to Ray, are you not fed up with everybody copying, McDonald's recipes? And one of the best answers I've ever seen on a replay, you go search it on YouTube or something. And Ray Kroc turns around and says, no, I'm not fed up at all. And he goes, sure, you're fed up with them stealing all your ideas and copying you. He goes, no. And he goes, the reason why? And he goes, why? He says, because I can invent faster than they can copy. And, if you think about it in that way, McDonald's can invent new products and product lines and deliver it so quick to the marketplace faster than anybody else can copy. And by the time they've copied the latest McDonald's thing, McDonald's have invented more things. And that's the example I give with the Gary Vee, because, people try and see that we all model some style on Frank Kern, Ryan Levesque, Ryan Dye, it doesn't matter, Jeff Walker, or, Grant Cardone, all these greats. But they're guys, they're just so far ahead, the 10, 15-year veterans at this, so don't try and emulate, just be authentic, be yourself, and steal and swipe and deploy some ideas for sure. I'm a big fan of that. Dan Kennedy taught me that in the early 2000s, from GKIC about swiping and deploying, but be yourself, I think, is the key thing. So 100%. That's great.
Yep.
So, secrets of organic marketing, Trish, as we start to wrap out. Organic is not paid, of course. We've touched on repurposing, we've touched on reproducing, we've touched on some of these hacks and recopying. Is there anything you want to add into that, sort of secrets of organic marketing that you think that people either getting started or struggling to get through that glass ceiling should consider?
Do you know, honestly, I think that one of the biggest secrets about organic marketing is when we give credit where credit is due.
Yep.
So a lot of people say, hey, Trish, I'm just getting started. How can I, et cetera, et cetera. Think about my story, Mike. Like, my story is going to people who are influential and doing the thing and inviting them onto my show so that I can be, you don't have to be the original content person, right? But if you are the curator, if you are the journalist who's bringing these people on and you're introducing them and you're asking the right questions and you're inviting people into their world, then that's all that really matters. So, and that's equally so. Again, I talk about my Midgley method. That Midgley method is actually like going to get content too. It's also like going on these different platforms and finding content. And I tell people, if one of your content is looking something up on Google, keywords on Google, and you come across an outstanding blog article, right? Then grab the link to that blog, maybe do a Facebook Live about it, right? Give credit to that original creator, put the blog link in the comments, tag the person, or take it a step further and reach out to them and say, hey, I loved this blog that you wrote. Would you be interested in hopping on a Facebook Live interview with me and talk about it further? Absolutely. That builds up so much credibility and brand authority because it shows that you're punching through the gatekeeper. You're going directly to that person. You're not scared to do it. And you're giving credit where credit is due. That is 100% online social media etiquette. And people really appreciate that.
They do. And, one of you mentioned earlier about the original gangsters, and we call that inside, and it's a bit of a slang thing and things like that. But when I do my keynotes, I always talk about the OGs, the original gangsters, but from a personal development point of view, the Napoleon Hills, Dale Carnegie's, Maxwell Maltz, people like those. Zig Ziglar sits into that OG bracket for me. And Zig always talks about giving credit, Trish. And I don't know if you've ever picked this up in some of Zig's talks that he did. He says when I come across something, and I always give credit. And this is pre-social media, by the way. You've got to understand this. I mean, Zig Ziglar left us in end of 2012. So, you got to date this. And some of this is in the 80s and the 70s and the 90s. So pre-social. But Zig always used to say about giving credit to the people. He says, number one, it shows you that you've done your research. Okay, so if you can say, hey, I come across this that did this. You know, you maybe mentioned give a reference to a Jim Rohn quote or this quote earlier on. Number two, it's the right thing to do. Stop being false. You know, you can't claim, you know, I'm sitting there saying, hey, set yourself a goal to become a millionaire. Not for the money, it's what it will make of you. You know, somebody could be listening to that saying, I'm sure I've heard that on one of Jim's books. It actually, you're not winning, you're actually embarrassing yourself because you're trying to pass off, and pass off is ultimately wrong. But then Zig being Zig used to drop the funny bunny, and he says, but if they're wrong, he says, I've got somebody else to blame as well. So that was Zig's finishing bit to sort of, you know, if the thing. But the main 2 points is it's the right thing to do. And ultimately, what I love about Trish's advice there is, you know, reach out to them. You know, the amount of people, you know, we just reach out to special people who you think that they're sitting glass ivory towers, but you know what? They're just real people like me and you. Most people, if you've got a strong message, you're authentic, and you're not in it for profitable gain, you know, you're not leveraging just for the wrong reason. Most people are going to give you some time and help, you know, it's building their network and it's building your network. And if there's exposure and you can write out all that together, that's the right thing to do. So that's amazing tips. Trish, I can't thank you enough for being on the show. I think the insight, and I love speaking to you, especially about us both getting this car repossessed. I feel a lot better now. It wasn't
right? Hey, like, misery loves company, but it's like I say, hashtag failing forward too. That's another thing that I like to say, fail forward, right? We've been there, we've done that. We got the t-shirt, the coffee cups, the everything to prove it, right? And they're lessons learned. I mean, like I said, you know, I'm getting 5-minute lives as being trademarked, right?
Perfect.
So I'm protecting the brand. I'm protecting that. I've got make sure you get yourself a business attorney if you don't have one. Have somebody in your corner, you know, even if it's just, you know, you can go, there's online sites now where you pay so much money a month and you get somebody like in your corner, they can send out a cease and desist. Guys, this is not all rainbows and butterflies and unicorns, right?
It's not.
But I do like to call myself the unicorn breeder.
I was going to say, I've got a note from the pre-show there, and if you are watching this on the video on the blog, over Trish's, let me get this the right way, over Trish's right shoulder, my left shoulder, there is a unicorn over there. So quickly, just give us a quick wrap on the unicorn breeder. Help us understand that.
So I was working with a copywriting mentor a couple of years ago, and he said, he goes, listen, you need to give yourself a 2-sentence sales pitch, like an elevator pitch in 2 sentences, but you have to make it ridiculous and use like maybe a mythical character. And I'm like, what are you talking about right now? I'm like, what? So we sat down and started talking, and I'm thinking, you know, mythical. I'm thinking, okay, mythology. I love Greek mythology. Maybe I'm a goddess. Maybe I'm, you know, what the hell am I? I didn't know what to say, right? So then I was like, you know, at the time it was right around when all these the unicorns were a thing, right? So I said, I don't know, maybe I'm running a unicorn nursery. And he's like, oh, okay. So what does that mean? And I said, I don't know. And it turned, and we went back and forth a couple times, and I said, I am a unicorn breeder. I take average entrepreneurs and turn them into magical beings who press live with purpose and increase revenue with just 5-minute lives.
Yeah.
And so there you go. I am the hashtag unicorn breeder. So we're doing that too. We're going to get some t-shirts made and have people say, you know, I am the be the unicorn, press live with purpose. We're having fun with it, Mike. At the end of the day, I'm having a blast with it, because if you're not having fun with this, then it's work, right? And don't get me wrong, there's definitely work. Writing a blog is not easy. Even transcribing your lives and going through and editing it, it's work and it's tedious. But what the fun part is this. And so once again, you keep saying thank me, but thank you so much for inviting me on, because I love talking about this stuff.
It's amazing. The passion, the passion, the motivation, the drive, the story. It's so authentic. It's amazing. And this is what the Open Mic podcast show's about. It's an entrepreneur's view of high growth strategies, and really to help you bridge the gap between the idea and successful implementation. And in whatever form you take that, you know, all I ask you to do is, if you take one thing out of today's show, don't just take it and talk about it. Don't go home and talk to your wife or your husband about it. Go and implement it. Go and check out trishleto.com. Go and take this $97 course. You know, it crying out loud, you spend more than that on sandwiches and coffee over a couple of weeks, you know, and lunch, you know, and then get started. Go and learn from these people who are doing it there. And again, we'll put those show notes before. So before we wrap out, Trish, as I say, you know, my show book's full again with notes. I should get bigger. I keep saying to the team, I need a bigger show notebook. But we've talked about so much and there's been so much value. Thank you so much. If we were to summarize into sort of 3 pro tips that the audience, if they're in the car, they can memorize it, take back to the businesses and get it done. What would those 3 pro tips be about live streaming and, the video content marketing from your side?
I would say, pro tip number 1 is remember that your content matters. Content does mean there's got to be context within it, right? So make sure that you're doing that market research as simple as it can be, using Answer the Public or following that Midgley method. And just make sure that you're not just going live and talking about things that nobody really cares about, because you want people coming back for more, and you want to structure them in such a way that you're putting yourself out there as the go-to expert. You are the authority, right? Whether it's your own content or you're reaching out to somebody else to get the content, right? The second thing I will tell you is to use it wisely for networking, right? I go Facebook Live to network with other people. I use it as a real-time survey, if you will. Okay. So as I'm having those conversations with people, I ask them for feedback. I ask them to push it out to their audience and their connections, and get me connected to more people, because the more people that I can help that way, I'm impacting lives, I'm changing lives. And that's what I wake up every morning. That's my mantra. That's my whole purpose to do this. Right. So, and then pro tip number 3 is, like I said, give credit where credit is due, especially because you're going to repurpose that content. You want people to know that you are being respectful and you're having that social media etiquette, whether you're putting it on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you're putting it. Please make sure that you're giving credit where credit is due, because the last thing that you want to do is have somebody reach out to you with a cease and desist.
Absolutely. Or even worse, a copyright claim and a fine for using wrong images or whatever it would be. And of course, if you're using where to get inspirational images, you can use sites like pexels.com, unsplash.com, things like that. If you're using things like Vimeo Business Pro and things like that, you can get free stock image and video images in there, video clips in there and things like that. But they're 3 great tips about the content matters. Use it wisely for networking and give credit where credit's due. Is amazing sort of summary, Trish. I really don't want this podcast to end, in fairness, because I've enjoyed myself so much. And I'm sure the audience have had a ton of value. As I say, make sure you check out Trish online. You can get her on LinkedIn /in/Trish-Leto, Facebook.com Trish.Leto, and then obviously at TrishLeto.com. And go check out those. There's a lot of new things coming for Trish's site. I know she's publishing out and putting a lot of new stuff out there that's really going to help and change the world. So please go and give her a like, go and bump the likes up, go and get some shares and retweets. If you found this inspirational, you can use the hashtag Unicorn Breeder. You can use the hashtag 5, that's number 5 minute lives, or press live with purpose. And, just go and share and learn. And, you never know. I'd love to hear what your stories are. Drop me a message. You can direct message me on LinkedIn, connect with us on LinkedIn, or use the hashtag The Open Mic. And if you're watching this inside our community, which is behind the closed doors, where I repurpose a lot of my exclusive content in the Growth Engine community, you'll meet people like Trish and that in there, and other influencers where you can learn from theirs as well. So Trish, again, I'm conscious of your time. We probably have overrun. I apologize, but I've enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much. It's been an amazing experience having you on the show today.
Mike, thank you so much. And listen, guys, if you're listening to this on the podcast and you happen to reach out to me via Facebook Messenger and say, "Hey, Trish, I heard you on Mike's podcast," please tell me that, because to me, as a podcast host myself, as a Facebook Live host myself, there is no bigger compliment than when somebody reaches out to one of your guests and says, "Hey, I heard you on this person's podcast." I'd love to take that and send Mike a screenshot and let him know that this is happening, and it's working and it's helpful. So please do that. If you do hear me, reach out and I will send Mike those screenshots and let him know that it's working. So thank you, Mike, so much. I appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. So as always, guys, I hope you've had a ton of value and some with change and a lifetime of value there. It's what we try and do with these type of guests and influencers who are awesome. And, please respect and appreciate the time that they give to share that with you. It's all voluntary. There's no charge. We don't pay people to come on. It's just about helping and sharing and moving the world forward. So we appreciate you tuning into the show and continuing your growth engine development. As always, to get in the game, go do the hustle and go make it happen. And we'll catch up with you on a new open mic show real soon.
You have been listening to The Open Mic, brought to you by The Success Hub. To find out more and to get the resources we have mentioned in this podcast episode, simply visit blog.thesuccesshub.io and view the podcast section. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to catching up with you in our next episode. This podcast and associated materials is published under copyright to The Success Hub. All rights reserved. No reproduction of this material is permitted.